you have any questions or anything, everybody on the board, and I met with the inspectors last week, they're all ready for you to be on board, and you know, you'll probably hear from the plumbing and the electrical inspectors, Dave and Tom, since they're more on call, they're going to, they'll grab you out of the office at some point when they're going to do an inspection, just so you can kind of see what they look for, some of their big items, and so they'll be grabbing you for that, and then we'll be setting you up with everybody else as we go.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for us at this time, or
No, not at this
comments
time.
you'd like to make?
No, it's my first day, so I'm just getting my feet wet.
I'm assuming he's gonna have uniforms?
He's got shirts already.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay.
Be adding to it accordingly.
And town phone?
Town phone is on its way, computer's on its way, he's getting an ID badge tomorrow.
Well, on the
Good
board?
luck.
All right, thank you. Look forward to
Yep,
the position and doing great things.
you'll do great things for us, I'm sure. Good luck.
You're all sworn in now?
Yep,
Okay, perfect. Well, welcome aboard.
thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Next up.
Hand some things out to you.
Thank you. We'll give you two after the last one.
Swing it out to Ellie. Okay, the packet I just handed out to you is recommended changes to the guidelines. I don't expect anyone to read them tonight. I'm handing them out to you today so that we post the changes, so that in 2 weeks we can adopt them. So it gives you all 2 weeks to look through them if you have any questions. The first part of this is, a lot of it is changes to some wording, some, TANF is now SNAP, it's those kinds of changes. I have written down on the sides what the changes are for anything to do with the language. The only one that's really significant in this, in my opinion, is there was a change to the costs that the municipality will pay for up to a certain amount for burial and cremation. That's because we usually go by the amount the cremation society will pay. They always give us a discount. That's been increased, so we've had to increase it in our guidelines. We can't just say, oh, we only want to pay up to a certain amount without any backup for why we're choosing that number. So that's in there. Appendix A is just some forms that have been, this started because I went to a seminar with all the welfare people, and they've been doing updates. All of these have been vetted. So since a lot of their forms have been vetted, I figure why take the risk? We might as well use the stuff that someone else has paid for. So that's what the forms are. The allowable levels of assistance is something that you want to take a look at because they have changed based on current market value, which is what we're supposed to go by. So you'll see that they've been changed. And Appendix C is the local market factors that support these changes. So, there have been increases in the food plan, but I think it's like 1.5% over what last year was, and the same with some of the rental, so this is the one you want to pay more attention to, because this is the one that actually has the dollar amounts in them, and this is just where the dollar amounts came from. So I just want to, these are what we use, but this is the backup to support.
What's the title of the document in your right hand?
This one is Appendix B, Allowable Levels of Assistance, and this is Local Market Factors, which is where this came from. So, that's basically all I wanted to show you and explain to you tonight, so that, again, I've asked Susan to post this for your meeting 2 weeks from now. It's posted outside welfare, so, which it legally has to be for 2 weeks prior to adopting it. But if you have any questions during the 2 weeks, feel free to ask me. These can be changed if you dispute some of the numbers or have other suggestions.
When was the last time the rates were increased?
A year ago, this month.
A year ago?
Yeah, we do them usually, we try and check the market values yearly so that our guidelines will be up to date. So it was last adopted by you guys last June, last year. So, I thought actually some of these I was surprised they hadn't gone up more based on some of the things that have been going on, but it's all done through HUD and New Hampshire state guidelines, and so it's not just arbitrarily chosen. And we usually use the same guides yearly, so we have a consistency to the numbers.
We don't get any support from the government.
This was just done, the only support we get in doing these is by the fact that the guidelines themselves have been done by the New Hampshire Municipal Association Welfare Section. So that was done by them, but this is all, we all have to do it locally, that's how New Hampshire welfare works. But if you don't have, you get in trouble if you don't have the reason behind the numbers that you've chosen for your guidelines.
I just wondering.
No, but that's why we do it, and that's why we check, HUD's update yearly, and the New Hampshire housing is done yearly to see where we are, to make sure that our numbers are supportable if anyone ever challenged us. So any questions, let me know, otherwise I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay, next appointment is Mr. Wilder, Fieldstone Meadow Realty. Come on up. The reason we called you here tonight is, I guess there's some miscommunication as to what was required of you before we lifted our cease and desist order on you when you were complete with the planning board process. Specifically, a pre-construction meeting and you posting a bond, and the Mylar being signed. And you're in full swing in construction up there from what was reported to us.
Just for the driveway.
What's that?
Just for the driveway, not really the site itself.
Okay. It's still construction on the site.
Well, I can give just, my name's Doug McGuire. I'm the civil engineer that has been working with John in getting this process put together. And just as an update to this board, John has made significant progress, essentially accomplished everything required of him. There were a number of state permits that needed to be done. The DOT driveway permit, that has been obtained. Alteration of terrain permit, that has been obtained. There were 2 septic permits, state septic permits for the property, those have both been obtained. A water supply permit from DES, that has also been obtained, and a subdivision permit. So, I mean, for a project of this size, it had a lot of state permits. All of the permitting has been obtained. So all the extra, or all the permits that were conditioned on the approval have been obtained. Our office has prepared final plans and Mylars and dropped those off to the town. Those have been at the town since the 3rd week in March. So everything has been there. There's been no changes to the plans. An additional item that I think is of merit is that the access to this property was via the Comcast property, and that property, they required an easement to get that. We did obtain that easement. The planning board was working with us to make sure that that was obtained. That plan has been recorded, but also important to that is a full bond was required as part of that agreement to be in place as part of Comcast's agreement of the easement. And so John does have paperwork to that effect. That has been placed and posted. So my understanding is, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the only outstanding item is a bond, which is to be bonded for the drainage improvements on the site. And we have completed that. We went back and forth with the town's consulting engineer. We got all the numbers squared away. The only issue John's been having is that this is not a bond, it's actually a letter of credit, is what the town requires. And John was switching his financing with his bank, and so he was able to get a bond. He wasn't able to immediately get a letter of credit because typically the bank will require you to be working with them, building their project, and he was not signed up with the bank at that time. So he was having issues getting this remaining letter of credit. Again, that was really intended just to be for the drainage improvements on site, which he's not working on at this time. He is bonded with Comcast, and we're happy to share that information with you on the work for the driveway. So, $30,000 bond for the driveway.
That goes to Comcast. I mean, that doesn't, I mean, the AOT permit and all those DES permits are just a paperwork drill with the state that are really just for fun. I mean, our issue is the Mylar isn't signed, we haven't had a pre-construction meeting, and we don't have a bond in place with the town as he's going on, you know, there. And then the other minor matter is when he tells us to F off last week because he's got people working. That's a problem. And this has been going on from the beginning. He's been trying to work. I'm talking, hang on.
I didn't say it that way.
How did you say it?
I didn't say it that way.
I didn't really say it. He said, do that, whatever you want.
Okay, whatever. The fact of the matter is you haven't been willing to comply with this stuff from the beginning, and, you know, you're not done the planning board process yet. You haven't had the pre-construction meeting, and you're engaging in construction.
You know, then you guys, you probably shouldn't have given me the driveway permit, because now I got Comcast property all torn apart. I can't just leave it like that. I mean, they were good, I had a hard time getting an easement, a real hard time. Now I'm just gonna leave it like a bond over there? It's just not right. There's trenches on both sides of their access to get up now.
The point is, you're down to just a very few little things to do, and you haven't done them. It's an easy process. And it's
No, it's not that easy.
Well, I think as I explained, the bond piece has proven difficult because of the letter of credit.
If you accepted a regular bond, I could have got that through my insurance company. But the town won't accept the bond. They want a letter of credit. So a letter of credit is a lot harder to get than a bond.
Did you just learn about that?
Yeah, pretty much. I was gonna get a bond through my insurance company, and I had it all set to go, and I called the planning board, and they won't accept a bond.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe you were aware that you needed to have a pre-construction
I
meeting. You went and pulled your driveway permit to start construction, you were given the driveway permit.
Right.
So, I don't think there's any issue with
about at the planning board meetings, though. Every bit of that, you know, the layout. And as far as leaving the driveway like it is, if you never had started it, it wouldn't be like that.
Yeah, but I have my
And you have a
permits,
cease
so
and
that's why I
desist.
thought I was okay to start. I
You have
have
a cease
both
and
permits
desist.
to do it. So
Well, we're not
why wouldn't I
talking-
do it? I got my permit, I didn't even start right away, I waited, I hesitated a week.
Well, we're not talking
Because I had to
months
finish
ago.
up
I
all the
told you
jobs
no
I
work
had.
until the cease and desist was listed. I mean, you'd say I'm picking on you. It's what you're
I
telling
didn't think
people.
a cease and desist lasted forever, you know, I did everything I was supposed to do. Now, all you do is bust my balls.
You're
I
telling
never
people
would've
I'm
came to
picking
this
on you.
town
When
if
you
I
go
knew.
up there and work, the phone starts ringing off the hook.
Yeah, you just
The
can't
mess
wait
on
till I'm
125 is ridiculous, Friday.
No.
I guess my problem with the whole thing is, I was born at night, but I don't think I was born last night. I think we've been in business for a long time.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I've
we've
never
been,
had
excuse
this
me,
problem.
sir,
Never
I'm talking.
had this problem in any town.
I'm
I've
talking.
always been able to start, at least put the driveway in and access to get in there. That's
You're
all.
looking at me in the board right now, and you're telling us it's our fault because we gave you the driveway permit. That's what you just said. You just said it's our fault because we gave you the driveway
Because
permit.
I thought it was okay to go.
There's a fine, I believe, in place on the cease and desist,
I-
at $275, and I think we should fully implement that fine. Seeing he doesn't want to talk, I tried talking, and he doesn't want to. That would be my recommendation.
Then you probably should have waited on the permit. I mean,
Yeah, we should have given you a permit.
I've got
I got it.
everything.
You're right, it's
in
our fault.
motion.
It's our fault, you're right.
I didn't, no.
It's our fault.
Well,
Shame on
we gave you
us.
the permit.
Yep, it's our fault, you're right.
So is there, I mean, the good news is.
The good news is the washout on 125 with all the dirt from the rain.
There's with all the rain we've been having, there's barely anything coming off that hill, because I got stone trenches everywhere up there. So nothing will wash down. Chief, if you wanna come up and check it out, you're more than welcome.
I guess from my standpoint, everything from an engineering standpoint and a permitting standpoint is complete except for the letter of credit. And again, that doesn't mean you
And
just.
planning board approval.
What's that?
Planning board approval, maybe? Is that just a small detail?
Well,
That's
honestly, I
missing.
don't know why the planning board hasn't been given those plans. I dropped them off in March.
Well, they got them, they just haven't been recorded,
So they haven't recorded them.
because they haven't been given money to record them. He had put up the money to record.
It's just a small detail.
Well, are you saying that the planning board's prepared to execute those if they're just given the money for the recording fees? Because obviously John would drop off a check, there's no issue. We haven't been told that you were waiting on a check or anything like that.
The whole point is, from the beginning, this started because we caught him working up there. And then he was referred to the planning board. He came and asked if he could start early again. We told him explicitly then, no, you can't. You have to go through the planning board process. The planning board process is not complete until the pre-construction meeting takes place. That's where everybody sits together to go over all the rules. Like, you don't start work until the pre-construction meeting. You got the bond in place. You got all these things in place. And the thing is, we're just constantly playing catch up here. We're constantly having to just, pull back.
Richard and I did discuss the driveway of the do's and don'ts of, we actually had our pre-construction meeting on the driveway. Because he made, I don't know.
Absolutely right. I met with John downstairs. I had a copy of the state permit. I did not do my own work to see the Mylar was signed. My fault. So you can yell at me a little bit, third a little bit. John, it's simple as this. You gotta get through the planning board process. You don't have to sign the Mylar. It hasn't been recorded. You don't have a plan. And besides, the day that they closed that meeting and gave you conditional approval, you had 180 days to meet all your requirements. That's a long time ago. So technically, you don't have a site plan review, because the planning board should have denied it on day 181. And you should have to start all over. That's reality. That's reality. There's no provisions in the plan that the planning board has, as far as I know, to go beyond what their approval was when they banged the gavel and closed that area. It was a conditional approval. You had 180 days to meet all those conditions, or your engineer could have filed paperwork and said, I need 6 more months. I need, 30 days, whatever you need. That didn't happen, so we're kind of in a little catch-22 here, folks. That's reality.
Well, I mean, as one suggestion is, from what I'm hearing, because of, I know where we're at from my paperwork side. I wasn't aware of some of these other items, but we need recording fees. We need to have a pre-construction meeting, and I'm sure John would be happy to stop work until those items.
He'd be happy to. He had a cease and desist, and he continued to work.
Well, I think
working
in his mind that he felt that he had everything complete. You're now telling him that there's items that need to be done. He had a meeting.
He's been told there needs to be a
This has been covered.
pre-construction plan. Don't say that he was under the assumption that he didn't need this. He was told multiple times.
Yeah.
Multiple
All right,
times.
so what do we do from here? I get it, I get it.
I mean, the bottom line, I asked the road agent if I could do the driveway. Apparently there was miscommunication, so I was under the assumption I was good to do the driveway.
All right, so what do we do from this today? What do we do from today? Number one, you gotta stop working until we get this straightened out. I don't care, there's holes all over the place. It's
Yeah.
gotta stop. I'm sorry. But you gotta have a meeting with the planning board, you gotta have a pre-construction meeting, you gotta have a bond. And what was the other thing, Kevin? There's something else.
The bylaws.
The Mylar sign.
Will you accept the bond, or does it have to be a letter of credit?
I don't know.
I can get a bond easy, relatively easy, and it's just as good as a letter of credit, but
Okay.
Everyone wants to see the ordinance, cash bond, and credit, I would.
Yeah, thank you.
can do a bond, and I can get a bond. But I was told by the planning board they won't accept
No,
a bond.
No, it's got to
Not true.
you haven't spoken to me
No,
about it.
what's his name there?
Well, I didn't tell you that.
Glenn. No, I called him and asked him.
Okay.
I said, what's the difference? He said, well, why would you want to get the town accepts a letter of credit?
Mr. Wilder.
That's a hard one to get.
Mr. Wilder.
I can get
It
a
can
bond.
be either cash bond or a letter of credit, but that needs to be in place. The Mylar needs to be signed, and the pre-construction meeting needs to take place before any more work takes place up there.
All right, I understand.
And the other thing is your sign's too big. It does not conform with the sign ordinance. I know it seems trivial, but
Excuse me, no, I didn't hear that last time.
your sign is too big. The sign for your development
Yeah,
is not in conformance with the sign ordinance.
all right.
So,
Mr. Coons, if I can clarify, he needs to give us the money to be able to record the plan.
yes,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay, so if John, Ellen, are you in tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, so if John could come in, you can tell him what he needs for fees, or the L-check fee and everything, and you can just give him a check. So we'll get that ready, as I said, all the plans are there, ready to go. And do we schedule a pre-construction meeting with you guys as well? Like for staff?
If you want to give us a call, we'll work out who we need to contact to get this taken care of.
Okay,
And I can get a bond.
that seems to be what they're saying.
All right, I can get a bond.
But I will tell you,
Cash bond.
it's fine, but moving forward from tonight, if there is any work taking place up there, and there will be multiple stops through the day in the next coming weeks, we'll be coming up there.
No, I'll pull all the equipment over the top of the hill. I'm doing it.
I mean, the cease and desist remains in place until all of this is taken care of.
Is there any formal requirements for, assuming that he meets these items and Ellen can let you know, is it lifted at that point, or is there some type
I'll
of?
tell you what, at the pre-construction meeting, we'll tear up the cease and desist right there once he's met all the requirements.
Well, I think Rich brought up a point. We gotta figure out with the planning board how it's gonna go. We just passed the 180 mark.
And that's up to the planning board. I
They
mean,
will need to write a letter requesting the planning board extend the approval process. So,
To extend the timeframe by which the approval needed to be had.
and to waive the requirements that say you only have an additional 45 days, because those 45 days has already come and gone. So they need to ask for a waiver of that regulation, and at that same time, tell the board what they want for the additional time.
Can I just ask one question? In other towns, it doesn't mean I don't, you guys may do it differently, but usually there's conditions precedent, conditions subsequent,
Right now,
and different.
he just right now has conditions of approval, and there are a few items that have just been talked about tonight in order for the approval to be met.
But there's nothing plan related that has to be done, as far as, and there's no permits outstanding, so the only thing that's outstanding is a bond. And I'm only talking about semantics here just because of whether or not we have to do this other step. I'm under the impression that everything of the conditions plan related have all been completed. The only items he hasn't done is a pre-construction meeting and the posting of the bond, and he has the bond number, and that's all been done with.
We don't have the, condo lots yet for the condominiums, which I believe you probably can't get until after the planning board, because that not only be a reference on the condo docs. So we don't have the condo docs, we don't have the money to record the plan. I don't know if anyone's brought the plan up to the registry to make sure it will be recorded, that's usually required. We have the pre-construction meeting, the bond in place. Those were the main, I don't have the motion in front of me, but I know those were part of it. But he had to have the bond in place within 180 days. It was one of the actual parts of the motion. And that hasn't been done, which is why, according to the regulations, if you haven't done that within the time frame allotted, we now don't have an approval. So what he's got
Okay, I mean, I can, pull those items together, for the planning board, the requests for the waiver. When, Glenn,
Tuesday, we meet Tuesday, so I need to have it by Thursday. I would like to have any of the
next
correspondence.
Tuesday.
Yeah, maybe next Tuesday, so I need to have the waiver request and everything in the office by Thursday.
No, no, okay.
Anybody else? So we're clear, what needs to take place, nothing else will take place until those things take place?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our first public comment section of the evening.
Thank you for hearing me. This was on the agenda because it came late last week. Drive around on, I think, the 5th, going toward on doctor's appointment at Exeter, and driving by Pheasant Run, and I see big fiber optic cable sticking out of the ground on Pheasant Run. Tuesday morning, I did a little searching around. Consolidated Communications was up there. There's subcontractors laying underground cable, digging up both sides of the road. They actually crossed the road in a number of places. They didn't cut the pavement. They used a pneumatic hammer to drive a hole underneath, which I don't think I would let them do. This was all done without permits. We've talked about the permits. You guys have a permit process. It's been accepted. I'm going to be meeting with Consolidated and their main subcontractor, JBL Corporation, I think it is, tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I'm going to demand a restoration bond on the roads, because I wasn't able to witness any of the construction that was being done. I'm going to demand an as-built, an accurate as-built by roadway station. At least that's my intention, unless you tell me to back off. The road bond on Pheasant Run is $23,318. The road bond on Red Gate is $21,317. That's basically cover the cost of resurfacing those roads. The roads aren't in the best of condition, honestly. They're ready to be resurfaced anyways. Whether we ever seize these bonds, we'll have to see if the work they did damaged the road further than they are already. That's my suggestion to you folks. Anyone wants to be there? I know they did all this work. They had the roads reduced, chief, down to less than 1 lane. I don't think anyone would contact you about detail, which we have an ordinance for regulation, or an ordinance. One of the other, doesn't matter. That they're required to contact the town when they work in the road. Number one, get permission, permits. They didn't contact chief of police for details, for public safety.
Don't they know better than that?
Well, this speaks to a larger issue with Consolidated that we're having, because, I mean, it's one thing for them to do aerial works for this fiber upgrade, but, to be doing major roadside excavation without any permits or anything like that is not acceptable. And then you couple this with the fact that they're trying to get, an $18,000 refund from the town from 2018, and they haven't pulled a pole license since 2015. They haven't given us an inventory of what they have. Nobody has a record of any of that.
Double poles everywhere.
We have double pole sets everywhere. So just so you're aware, Rich, Don and I did call on Friday. It was Thursday. We were trying. It was Thursday. It was after the inspector's meeting, and just trying to get someone over there to know what's going on. They had no idea that none of the permits were pulled. They had no idea you that none of the, no bond had been put in place or anything like that, but it's just, I'm hesitant to shut the whole thing down because I do feel the town needs another internet provider beyond our one that we have right now. And that's the only thing that I would say would stop me from advocating just shutting them down until they comply with everything. Or at least make us right on that.
But here's the issue, they're about to make a boatload of money with minimal costs. That they're digging up roads and doing all this work.
Well, as far as we know, this is the only one that they've done underground work in this project, correct?
I allowed them because it was just before, right when this new permit process happened. There's one section of road on Morning Dove, about 100 feet of cable. Didn't involve any driveways, and I worked with them. They actually filled out the permit. It wasn't the same subcontractor. One of my questions to the board is, according to this application form for their permit to do any underground work or even new poles and things like that, the permittee is supposed to be the one that fills this out. The permittee would be consolidated, not one of the subcontractors.
I did speak to someone from Consolidated today. I sent the application packet to the other contractor. In the meantime, I was trying to track down who to send a letter to in Consolidated, and that led me to Jane Miller, who is the manager for the right-of-way. She looked into it. She asked for the packet as well. She said they were working in East Kingston, had a permit in East Kingston, and mistakenly went over the line.
All right.
So she wants
They
to.
don't have any sign between
She's gonna
Kingston
be
and East
sending a
Kingston.
permit and the fees and everything else. She's aware that you have a meeting tomorrow.
So the only problem with that statement, I did speak with these people back in April and May. The subcontractor, the gentleman's gonna be there tomorrow, Mr. Meehan from this JBL. And I told him at the time I wasn't gonna do anything in the permit because there's underground conduit in the ground. They went and investigated and found out it wasn't the right size, so they just went ahead without doing the permit. So there was prior contact. And I told them I was not gonna allow them to dig the road up because there was conduit put in the ground. The problem is the conduit was too small for the cable they wanted to pull. That should have keyed them to come get at least a simple phone call. They got nothing from them. The other thing is, the right of way is 60 feet wide. I would not allow someone to dig a trench that far from the edge of the pavement when you've got 18 feet off the edge of the road, this town property. And we own the property, so they could have put it at 17 and a half feet away from the edge of the pavement and not disturb the pavement at all. We wouldn't be in this mess. But they chose not to. And that's why I'm saying we punish them.
Yeah, and as far as, we're not accepting bonds from subcontractors. They're the owners of the poles. They're the ones that have owned those poles through 16 different organizations, but it's been consistently, and that's the one we're gonna hold accountable. I know one of their subcontractors they had out doing in the aerials was from New York. I'm not gonna drive out there and go track them down. So, I don't know what the rest of the board's feeling is, but we're not.
I think it should be one consolidated. No, we need to address it all at once. They're doing work without permits. There's double poles everywhere. They haven't pulled their pole permits, their taxes, it all needs to be addressed in one fell swoop. And we need to know who to talk to that we can start clearing this matter up.
It's my intention to be there tomorrow.
Okay. I appreciate it.
It's, like I say, doing the aerial work, they had the details, it's like, okay, fine. But this has become a major infrastructure project in town and nobody's had the courtesy to even, clue us in on what the plan is. So, that needs to stop.
Where are you meeting?
I honestly don't know. I'm sure I'll get a phone call before 1 o'clock.
Can you call me after you get that phone call? Let me know.
Absolutely. So we're gonna meet out on site. I'm gonna meet them out on site 1 o'clock. That's where I'll be.
On
Pheasant Run, I think that we'll meet right at the intersection of Pheasant Run and Red Gate. So off the road, off 111, out of the way.
Michael, you picked a good night to show up.
No, it's what it's.
Coming all.
All the freaking food.
I'll see what's easier.
All right, thank you.
And a related, this just came in an email this afternoon from the tax department. They want to set up a meeting with you guys to talk about the tax issue, the settlement issue.
Perfect.
Right.
So I did ask Susan to prepare a letter of basically a cease and desist. I don't know if you went through that.
I did.
But I think she's got it in possession. I thought maybe you guys voting to issue a cease and desist might send them a strong message for tomorrow's meeting, especially if I was gonna be there by myself. You can,
Well,
after tomorrow's meeting, you can decide to rescind it by telephone.
well, can I suggest that we vote to authorize the chairman to hand them a cease and desist?
If necessary.
If necessary. How's that sound? I make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Further discussion. Roll call vote. We don't have to do that anymore.
No, we don't.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Further public comment? Okay, committee liaison reports.
What you suggested for the Conservation Commission to have 2 meetings a month and cancel one if it wasn't necessary, just in case plans come in from the planning board, so they can get the plans in on time to review the plan.
Glenn, we're doing that for the planning board. Conservation now has 1 meeting a month. Sometimes they get plans and don't have a meeting until after our meeting. So they're gonna go on and schedule another meeting and then cancel it if they don't get plans.
Sounds good. Excellent. Kevin?
Still waiting on Charlie Zills for the land over at Great Pond. I did see the last meeting, I wasn't here, but we have the original piece of property is all squared away on 6th, but there's the adjacent to the Vetter and the other one on First Street. So waiting for that still. I don't know what his time frame is. Have you heard of having?
No, I know they've been working on it because I heard from neighbors who wanted
Yeah.
to know if they could.
I keep getting the same phone calls. All the neighbors are aware that it's gonna be coming up. As soon as we get those, we will post them and get the auctioneer on.
Does he have a timeline?
Does he have what? I don't, we told him it was kind of a rush, but I don't know where we're at. Actually, if you want, I'll give him a call tomorrow and see.
You're going to?
Yeah, I'll give him a call. I guess it's more under, well, I'll wait for old business, but liaison, it's interesting enough, I'm looking through the packet here, and it's a thing to sign from Cindy for Primex for our property liability insurance. And it looks good on paper that we're getting a $14,000 rebate because the claims were down for 2020 because of COVID. What's disturbing to me is, I believe this whole board remembers, we talked about consolidating and getting on a time frame when we could get all, go out to bid for all of them. And I don't see that happening when we have a thing to sign for Primex for another year. I don't know where Cindy's at with it, but I'm not gonna sign it. So I got a question to ask Cindy. I don't know what the board's flavor is, but I thought we were supposed to get everyone on the same page for workman's comp and property liability, and I don't see that happening. But it seems to be a continual problem.
If you could follow up on that discussion, I won't sign that either.
So I will follow up with it tomorrow, but I don't know why it's here.
I don't think Ellie was on the board when that happened, but basically because we were 2 different policies, we weren't combining them and saving money. Some people wouldn't bid one, they wanted both.
No, you can't do that, you can't do that. It's not an efficiency of scale.
Say it again?
It's not an efficiency of scale.
It's not. They said if you consolidate it, we'll put a bid in. And we have them separate, and it looks like someone is trying to continue that separate. When I thought the board spoke clearly. That's all I have for liaison reports.
Books committee, books are going out of Tammy's office, it's somewhere around 8 to 10 a day. Pretty good. Stack's going down tremendously. I think people are picking them up on a pretty regular basis. We're getting really pre-sales. I'm encouraged that we're gonna hit our 650, 700 goal that we had.
That's good.
Encourage everybody to buy one.
Buy it while you can.
I also, as health officer, want to remind everybody that it's mosquito weather, to start doing all your precautions with long sleeves and sprays and all that kind of stuff. So,
Do you advertise the books on our cable site?
yes.
On there?
It's on Facebook as well. Kevin's done a very good job of posting that. And the deeds, cow patty deeds.
I was gonna bring that up to the last,
You know that.
Had the inspectors meeting last week, consolidated was one of the big things that came up. And then, from that, I have one item for legal. Basically someone who has not pulled any of the permits that they're required to when they're selling a piece of property. So,
Attachment.
what's that?
Time for an attachment.
Yes. So, Ellie?
I don't have much of anything really, except Kingston days are still coming, and the sales for the deeds have not been great. And I talked a little bit with Rich earlier that he and I may have to go on the road, so to speak, and set up at the town at the post office or.
Gonna bring the cat in.
get your cow patty deeds. Get your cow patty deeds.
I get the HTC tomorrow night, Historic District Commission, there's one application. We have Kingston Days is Thursday, there's history book signing party is Thursday, and nothing at the ZBA yet. So I have very little to report tonight.
Okay. Old business, the American Rescue Plan, Christmas list, emergency relief, recovery. So we've received basically the basics of what this is intended for, with regards to the cities and towns. And we discussed this in our department head meeting. So we do have the department heads working on applicable items that they're gonna bring back in our next meeting. Not this meeting, but next.
The next department head meeting.
Is it within the time frame? Because it's a tight, there's August date in there, isn't
It's the
there?
next selectmen's meeting. I believe.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
The August deadline is for saying you want the money and putting in the application through the system, through the portal
Okay.
that they have. We don't have to account for any of our expenses or things we have in mind. The first
But
report.
we have to apply by that date.
We have to, yeah, we have to put.
Sign up.
Right, sign up for it, because you can refuse it if you want. The first reporting date is in October.
Okay. The only other thing I will say, our executive council woman, Janice Stevens, did reach out to me and said if there's anything that she can do to help this along, she would be more than willing to assist the town of Kingston to the point where she'll even come to a meeting if we want any explanation on any of it. But there is additional money that I don't know whether we need to talk to Sumner or who, but I mean, we're having all the issues with the water still. And that could be something the money is used for, is setting up infrastructure. So, I mean, it's a tight time frame to be talking about something on that grand scale, but I think we do need to talk about it.
We do have several years to use the money.
Yeah,
But you just look at apply for it in the meantime. You gotta
but I don't
apply.
know if that's something we want to consider or not, whether we could tie that into buying land or not buying land, or just we have the issue with, I apologize, I've been off for the last couple meetings. I don't know what got, I know like there are 5 filtration systems in town to the PFAS, and I don't know if those filters have been changed or not. I know the state kind of abandoned it on us and left them to us, and we're in litigation per se with the state. But for the detriment of those residents, you know, I don't know what the what we wanna do.
To my knowledge, they're still being maintained on each, as.
They are being maintained?
Prescribed maintenance schedule is being followed.
Okay.
So, but I think that's, certainly, I mean,
Because water
it's
is,
gonna require digging into it and figuring out if that's,
Yeah.
so, I mean, I guess that's,
I agree, that's not something we're gonna talk about, we need to talk about if we wanna do it, but it's something that we should at least consider. There is money out there, but like I said, the governor's office, well, not the governor, the executive council's office, our person said that they would do whatever we would want.
anything else on that?
Cindy prepared a memo also, which I just got today, but, she's got a lot of good information too, it's in her packet.
Regarding what?
Potential uses of the funds. And it does say water and sewer projects, new systems development, stormwater systems, technical assistance, to be in compliance with the Clean Water Act, so. And then she gives some of the dates, projects eligible through 12/31/24.
Well, I would strongly recommend that all board members review those, and let's just get some ideas down and see, you know, if we need clarification on it, I'm sure they'll provide that, but as far as I'm concerned, there's really no ask too big at this point,
Yeah.
because it seems like everything's kind of,
Available.
Santa Claus is in town,
Jesus.
reach into the bag.
Yeah.
All right. Block 5. There's a memo in here basically showing their plan for 2022. So basically, if I'm reading this right, the 6 workstation upgrades for Windows 10 is the only thing that isn't covered in the original proposal.
Right, that's newly identified. She was talking with someone from Block 5 today. Some of these things also might be covered under broadband. And some of these that need upgrading are police department, so that makes it even more eligible, I think.
I don't know if it would go back to the ARPA grant, but I did have a conversation with Block 5, because it was brought to my attention about bringing the server to the fire department. He said, absolutely not, because the primary use is here. What he offered, he said, you might want to consider running a fiber optic line between here and the fire department.
They consolidate those as favorite, even though they don't know it yet.
Well, there's that, but there's also, that could possibly qualify for the grant, okay? It would speed everything up. And then I did have an additional conversation because right now, under the email, the Microsoft Office 365, all we have is the basic, where you have the email and the storage for the email. That could be upgraded for $1 more a user, where it would include Microsoft Teams. Or I think you could up it $3 more per user, and that would give them the full Microsoft Office package. Right now, some computers have Microsoft Office as far as Excel, PowerPoint, and Word, but not all of them have that. So there's a question of which way the town wants to go, whether we have that software loaded onto each individual computer, or you allow the Office 365 user to have it. So I don't know what's the board's pleasure, if we want to take go to each department head to see what they want to do.
It's an excellent discussion for a department head meeting.
Well, this just came up the other day, because I called but yeah.
Right, but I mean, that's where a collective decision needs to be made for the benefit of the town and its employees.
And my concern would be, it could be tied to that grant as well, because it talks about communication.
Correct. So it may be able to fund it through the grant,
Correct.
which would be really good, in which case we can't wait till August for that meeting.
So I just, that came up on my radar just last week, so that's why I bring it to the board's attention.
So, but the point of the server would be, we have it at the town hall, but we'll store it at the fire station when that's constructed.
No, he said it wouldn't make sense because it would be better here, even if it's not in an air-conditioned room, because this is the primary user. What you're gonna do is if you move it to the fire station, you're gonna slow everyone down over here unless you put a fiber optic. And he said, the problem is, when was the last time you lost power that they couldn't use the server? And if they lost power, they're not gonna be in this building anyways.
We'd lose the server without losing power. That's how old our system is.
Yeah, but you're not going to now. Now it's updated.
Alright.
It's not a power issue, because that's how it was brought to me. It's like, well, there's no backup power here. There will be at the fire station. It's like, well, when was the last time you lost power that you couldn't use the server?
But is the generator at the fire station gonna power this building as well?
No, won't be.
No.
No, can't.
But that may be another option to buy a generator for this building through the grant,
Well,
to preserve the infrastructure of our communication system. How does that sound for wordsmithing off the top of my head?
but yeah, no, that was the reason why they said, well, it could be air conditioned and backup power, but he said absolutely not. It's because you don't have an issue with power at the town hall. But he said if you wanted to do something, I would run a fiber optic line between the two.
Okay.
Okay. Satellite Saloon has asked for a planning board continuance. Charlie in here.
Why do they need a continuance? Does anybody know?
I think there was
Stop.
one major reason is they played music for the first time the other night because the last few weekends have been rained out, so we didn't get a legitimate sound check.
So where did that end up?
They didn't have any music Saturday night?
They did this past Saturday, it was first one.
So didn't they have it recorded? I think, wasn't there the whole debate about who's gonna pay for and
That's all settled.
What is it, the settlement
They're paying it out of their bond.
to our sound person?
Our sound person that we hired for $250 an hour.
and what did that sound person get for a reading?
He's gonna kind of combine the different nights and give us, he's going
Okay,
again.
so he
okay.
did go Saturday
Yeah.
night, all right.
Okay.
Okay. So the agreement was honored, is what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I don't know, if Charlie didn't get some other stuff ready, but he's asking for a continuation.
Well, that's not our issue anyways, right?
Yeah.
Alright, do we need anything more from the fire department before we sign a special permit?
I actually thought we'd already signed
I
it.
thought so too.
It's just
But
that,
now that we mentioned,
I thought we signed it last meeting.
there's that special event page that Graham will sign and I'll sign at the office to say we have everything we need, the insurance and all of that. I don't know how much of it applies
For which special event?
for the beer fest.
Oh, of course we're gonna sign.
Yeah, so I didn't know if it was completely done, if you needed anything more from them. Yeah,
And that's another Facebook thing I need to share.
okay, so we're good on that?
We're good, yes.
One more old business. Just to let the board know, Affinity Light, where we're at with that process. As you know, we hired them to convert the street lights to LED. We had to hire Unitil to come in and put in the arms on the 20+ poles. They did that. Affinity's third-party contractor that does actually changes the lights out, got in trouble in another town with Unitil. And they were working through that safety issue to make sure that they're working properly to Unitil standards. And Affinity ended up having problems with that contractor. They were slow to respond to everything else. So Affinity has since stopped using that third-party contractor to do their lights. And they have hired another contractor, and this contractor's out of Maine, and they have every intention of either doing it the first week of August or the second week of August, but the lights will be converted at that time. So that's where we're at with those. And then there's still the outstanding issue of the lights that are directed to private property, and I think the chief is working on that. We're gonna.
Yeah, I don't know if you were here for that meeting. Basically, we were giving the option to the residents to purchase them. If they didn't want it, they're ours.
Okay, so have we heard back from those residents? You
So
have?
I'm gonna have it removed.
Okay. And then we'll contract with Unitil to move those because it's the whole arm.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, new business. So, Rich St. Hilaire and myself met with Revision Energy on site at the landfill, former landfill, still a landfill, to discuss solar array being placed out there. Mostly it was just so that they could see the actual, they had looked at it from satellite imagery, but they wanted to see it on the ground. And just work through some logistical questions and just questions that I had and Rich had. Not a ton to report on that, just more they were gathering information and they're gonna come to the board on the 26th, so that's our next meeting, I believe. And they'll have a firm proposal or more of a proposal for us at that point. So, in case you didn't know, I guess there was some provision run through the state that municipalities could be exempted for larger arrays.
Right, we've been waiting for the government to sign that for a few years, actually.
Well, there was a 5 megawatt increase that was vetoed, but this is a bipartisan agreement to allow municipalities to do that. So it's something we've been looking at for a while, and now it's more feasible because of the size that we can do it with. So.
The only thing on that, I think I would feel more comfortable doing, if we're gonna do it, and following what the board's guidelines are, is almost looking out the bid as well, versus having Revision give us a price, which they're probably gonna end up getting it, but whether we hire a company to put it in.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna suggest that we invite Tom Ambrose, the superintendent of schools, to come to that meeting, because that has some impact for them too, doesn't it? If we go that direction.
Are we gonna give them more money?
No, I was thinking of less.
Oh.
Because if we save on utility, on usage, that saves us as taxpayers.
I'm suggesting we put this in as a grant. I'm looking at the LFR grant.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up, Kevin, because I was thinking about what we had done with Block 5, where obviously nobody at this table is an expert in solar energy. And I think, depending on what they come up with, I think it might be worthwhile to have them develop an RFP and put it out to bid.
Yep.
Just to make sure that, we are following our own guidance, that, we seek outside, as many as possible. But again, I think until we see what they have in mind and what they're proposing, I think we should probably withhold judgment until that point.
I'm not so sure we can get the money out of here.
It's Christmas.
I love it. Gotta love free stuff.
I can't even comment on it, because I know the chairman's gonna move me out of the room.
So there is an email from Gregory Setko of the Conservation Commission. Don, do you know what's going on with this?
Yes.
Did you want to cover that?
Which one you're looking at? The boat launch, the boat land launch?
Sergeant Boat Parking is one of them, right?
Sergeant and manual something.
The manual property boat launch.
Yeah, at the end of Green Road.
Yeah, there's two, yeah.
So we've talked about it several times. I think we're gonna do a site walk with the board and with the Conservation Commission to go down and look at it. They're talking about putting a small area in off Green Road, and park where the parking is, just before you get to the Y, at the end of Green Road, to allow people to canoe, that type of thing in there, so that's the only access we have to Country Pond, on the Kingston side. So, my understanding was that we were gonna do a site walk and ask the board to go out and look at it as well.
So, I guess this is a good segue into the next topic, regarding class 6 roads. Green Road is a class 6 road, and I think there are 2 residents at the end there, or 4.
1, 2, 3 on one side,
Yeah.
and 1 on the other.
I think there's a proposal for.
There's a total of 4.
I guess the question is, and what this is regarding Bob Bean, requesting that Tucker Road be taken from a class 6 to a class 5 road. I would say, you know, one of the, as I'm reading through this, one of the issues they bring up is, you know, us maintaining, obviously if we have a parking area down there, and, I would see that as a compelling reason to switch a class 6 to a class 5 road for the town. If we're putting a boat launch down there, we're gonna have the public down there, we need to be able to access it for emergency services. It could be a potential launching point if there's a water rescue or something like that that's closer there. The problem I see is in the Tucker Road example, unless we're putting a parking area down there for further access or something like that, it gets us into a situation where there's
We're
no-
building someone's road.
Exactly, and there's no compelling reason beyond someone wanting to build a house there. So I bring that up for 2 reasons. Either we look at putting a parking area on that end of the road, on our property, if we wanted to do that, or, but I mean, we've kicked this around for a while, and I think we kind of know an answer.
I think the best thing to do on this one is go down and take a look, see what you got, what the plan is, then make that decision from there.
Even without seeing it, Mr. Bean's situation is not the same as that boat launch. And I would agree with you, if we're gonna invite the public to use the launch, then we are responsible for the road to enter there and maintain it accordingly.
It's gonna take a lot of money to upgrade Green Road. I was there today,
Is that right? Yeah.
and it's very narrow, and it's a drop off, and it's wet on both sides.
That's something I think we should discuss with Rich.
With Rich, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe that same day that we go out and do a sidewalk, that we do one over to Bob Haynes as well.
I think the other person that should be there is Dennis Quintal, to give us a full idea of what we're gonna be looking at.
Hey, Rich.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you need the engineering issues to be addressed, absolutely.
Because these things, you know, I know Rich has said with regards to the Tucker Road, you know, oh, we've been maintaining it for years. Well,
Unofficial.
unofficially, when we start taking ownership of something, what additional, not just financial requirements, but just maintenance
And we've been
requirements?
maintained as a class 6, not as a class 5.
Can't be maintained if it's class.
Well,
six.
true,
That's-
actually, right, but
That's
So
the difference.
maybe take a sidewalk the same day on both,
Yeah.
and ask Rich and Dennis to go with us.
Do you mind setting that up, Susan?
Okay, is there any particular time frame you're looking at?
I think you probably wanna talk to Evie to have her contact whoever, because they're gonna have to walk us through what they're gonna do.
Talk with Rich and Dennis Quintel would be the 2 key people other than us, for starters.
I think the target would be either before a meeting, before a selectmen's meeting, maybe 5:30, go look at both of them.
Or Saturday morning.
read the long sleeves.
Or one of our,
Saturday morning.
when is our next department meeting?
End of August.
End of August, we need to schedule one end of July.
Do you want it to be after you see the conservation people on the 26th or before?
Let's do it after,
Gonna be out there a while.
yeah, maybe a Saturday, but let's meet with them and come up with a date after that.
Some Saturday or something.
Probably Saturday morning or something.
So set it up when you see them. on
Either a
the
Saturday or
26th.
Sunday morning.
Before church.
And Chief, since we got you here, if we are gonna be putting a boat launch in, what you guys would Yeah, just so you can get the lay of the land and kind of see what, rather
So
than.
if they're talking about like car toppers and canoes, we would need more area to spin a boat around, like our boat and trailer. So I have much input on that. Any extra access to any of our rights of water is beneficial and emergency.
All right, so as far as Bob goes, I guess we'll just let him know that we're gonna be doing a full meeting with all interested parties, and he can be invited to that portion of it.
I'll address A.
Okay?
A was a miscommunication. Basically, I thought Ellen had said she wanted to come in a private session, and I said, well, I will add to that, but, under the new health department guidelines, we have to have at least one, preferably 2 meetings a year that have to be the separate meetings. Like, we can't have them as part of this meeting. We have to adjourn from this meeting, go into a Board of Health meeting, and then we can go back into this meeting if we want to, but it has to be separated. We have to keep separate minutes, and they have to be turned into the state. So we may want to think about when to do those and set something up so it's on schedule, because the state's gonna ask me for that. I would probably, they don't have to be bi-yearly, like they could be April, June, or whatever, and I would kind of think maybe leading into summer, since that one is when the health department has its busiest time, and maybe October-ish after all that ends, so we can talk about,
Review what happened that
review what happened, what we did right, what we did wrong, what could have changed, that type of thing.
So do you wanna wait to do that until the fall now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say do set one up for maybe first of October or something like that.
Not tonight.
When we talk about B,
Sure.
B, we talked about in our last meeting, that we had the federal holiday, it was on a Saturday, that it's a federal holiday that employees, I think, are entitled to because our handbook says federal holidays are off. We did not budget it, which is obvious because no one knew it was gonna happen until 4 o'clock the afternoon before. My recommendation is to make it a floating holiday for the employees and not a paid holiday or extra benefit, since we don't know anything about what it is. And it really doesn't affect, I mean, it affects obviously several people, but not as many as you think. I mean, in Tammy's office is one person.
Well, I would relay that, it hasn't been adopted by the state of New Hampshire yet.
I thought it
That's
did. I think
not
that's everything
federal.
but vacation time, holiday pay. No, it's done. It comes from the feds, it's nothing to do with state of New Hampshire, this is federal. I like the idea of a floating holiday, and I don't know that it should be just 2021.
Oh, I think it continues on, but how to deal with it this year, I think is floating
Floating
holiday.
holiday.
Next year, it'll be a certain day.
Next year, I'd still maintain the floating holiday, we don't have to close down.
If we wanna do it that way, that's fine, I mean, that's up
But
to
this
us.
year, for sure, floating holiday, for those employees that would qualify for.
So we need to do that.
Great.
Motion.
Can we put that in the Gopher grant somewhere? Part of the wish list.
I'll make a motion that all eligible employees receive a floating holiday to be used in 2021 with the, oversight of their,
And not to
Department
be
head.
taken between Thanksgiving and Christmas, or, you know what I mean? I don't want everybody coming in for the last week of December.
well, that's what I'm saying by the advice of the department head, that way they can
Okay.
scatter them out. Because like, it's.
So do we give Veterans Day off?
Yeah,
Yes,
We do?
yes,
absolutely.
I didn't think we did.
yes, we do. We're close.
Veterans Day, federal holiday,
I think so.
closed.
We really do, Phil.
Okay.
If we don't, we should.
Do we give Columbus Day off?
I don't think Columbus Day is a federal holiday, is it?
Yes.
Well, then maybe we should. We may be open.
That won't make anybody work, let's just pay.
I don't know about Columbus Day, I do know about Veterans Day. though.
Do we,
We need to rewrite the handbook if you don't like what it says.
You're gonna, it lists in the handbook, it lists all the holidays.
It's listed,
It's
it
Columbus
lists
Day.
holidays.
any federal holiday.
It says we're closing all federal holidays.
Does it list the day after Thanksgiving? Or,
Next
yeah,
year.
that's not a federal holiday. It's,
Well, I just made a motion. I don't think anybody seconded it. Vote on it and decide what to do.
Did you move it? I'll second
Yeah.
it.
Okay, motion is second, further discussion. How that was done was ridiculous.
I totally agree with you.
I agree
And
too.
for us to have to play catch up because of those idiots is beyond me.
I agree too.
And so,
We shouldn't re-elect them. Just saying.
I'll get rid of them. So, I find it odd that there has been no guidance from the federal level or the state level regarding this. And
another unfunded mandate.
another unfunded mandate.
Of course.
Touche.
So, I just, a question, if I can
It's not public.
speak during discussion. So like myself and Kelly, we take 8 hours holiday or whatever. My shift workers, my 4 guys work 24-hour shifts, so that they get full 24 hours off.
Do they get holidays, full 24-hour holidays off?
No, we get paid 8 hours of holiday pay, I
They
thought.
get 8 hours of holiday pay,
Yeah.
and then they get overtime for the holiday itself. So if they work 16 hours,
I
they
guess
get
I should have been a firefighter.
I should have been a public employee. Would have made a lot more money.
Was that what they do for firefighter?
No, we have something completely different that's in a fire.
What do you get?
We are allowed 11 holidays, and in November, we get a check for 11 days at our rate of pay times 12 and a half, because time and a half. So for 12 hours, we get one check in November for all the holidays. If you're working it, you work it. If you're scheduled to work, you work the holiday. You just get 12 times your rate of pay times 12 hours, and that's what you get.
Has Cindy received anything, any guidance or anything?
Not that I know of.
Projects or anything like that?
Because I talked to her about it and she didn't mention getting anything. You wanna hold this off one more minute?
Well, the issues in the fire department, right?
I'm sure that's just the top of the iceberg. I'm sure there's,
And that's sad.
no, I'm sure there's,
I'd say take it under advisement for now, let's look into the different.
Well, that's why
That's what we said last time, though, we keep putting it off.
Well, Kevin just
That
gave,
was only, it just happened, so
No, I mean, last selectmen's meeting when we talked
Right,
about this,
right.
we said we'd put it off to this one.
well, we need to know what happened with the police. I mean, if it's a full-time employee and it's, you
gotta
guys
be-
have different shifts.
It's gotta be 8 hours for everybody, we can't.
I would agree with that. 8 hours paid, done, for the holiday. If your per diems,
They don't qualify.
they don't qualify. But your full-timers do.
But this is where I'll stand up, and I get it, you can throw the thorns at me, but this is where they get screwed, because they're working 24 hours, everyone else gets to have it off and enjoy themselves, they don't, they have to work. Someone's working Christmas. Here, the town hall employees get Christmas off and get to spend it with their family, and those working, whether the police officers, only 8 hours, or the full-time firefighters, 24 hours, don't have that luxury. And all the holidays in general work great if you've got banker's hours. If you're in the public sector, you get screwed.
Well, police and fire do is what you're saying.
So,
So let's come up with something creative. Maybe this is the chance to do something right without following another community. What do we want to do?
I agree with that. I think
All right, I will charge the police and fire chief to get creative, talk to their people. What's the right thing to do for the staff? Give us a,
Just for the Juneteenth floating holiday.
yeah. So let's start with that one. And if that works out, we can go for beyond that, but I'd like to see some feedback from the troops.
For holidays in a second.
What's that?
I said I would sign up for holidays if that's what they're getting.
If they're getting 24 hours, you mean? I think 24-hour pay is not the right way. I don't know.
Well, let's table it then and let them come back with a recommendation. We'll table it one more time.
Can you, Cindy, contact NHMA or Primex or whoever
Or
and see
both.
if there is guidance regarding this well thought out program by the federal government?
They're just pulling stuff out of there.
Which they put it right smack in the middle of a bunch of other holidays instead of moving it to another day.
4 o'clock on Friday, that the next day was a holiday, the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Literally, Katie, you weren't here last time. Katie got a call at 3:45 that she was off the next day because they just voted he signed it at 3:37.
Oh, I know. I wasn't here, but I caught the news. It just happened overnight, just like that. The day before the holiday. Guess what? You got a holiday. Yeah. Thank you, federal government.
All right. That brings us to our second public comment of the evening. Grant?
If you sign it, okay.
He just didn't have
I
anything to
got
do
to take
with
someone to bring up under something.
It's a free living.
Oh my God.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I had something that I don't know if it would be under new business or board business or
Both have gone past on the agenda.
correspondence, but I have 3 POs right here for the fire department for a new vehicle. That I don't know.
He's gonna buy 3 vehicles?
No, he's buying 1 vehicle, but it's to outfit it. So it's 3 POs. I think we should talk to the board. I know, I just have some issue that I would rather have the conversation before we have the POs in front of us. I understand that other people talked to the chief and told him to do it this way. It wasn't budgeted. There is money in the budget. And I will say, I know in the past, this board has done approval for a highway truck that wasn't budgeted. Because it was a good deal or whatever. I don't like the way it's going, and I'd rather just at least say something, but looking at the POs, it is a good price. I know we just hired a new code enforcement officer, and we talked about a vehicle for him, so there's a need for a vehicle. So I think, yes, maybe the timing's right, I just don't like the way it came to the board.
I think we discussed it.
We did.
No, we didn't. We
Yeah,
didn't
we
as a
did.
board, no.
Yeah, it came up. You talked with
Came up and he said he was gonna be bringing in a PO
Right,
in a couple of weeks.
because he talked about giving up his vehicle to the building, to the code enforcement officer.
I guess I just
I
said,
know I talked with Graham about it, and I said, I don't know, we haven't talked about it as a board, this was about a month ago or so. And we did, when we were talking about a code enforcement officer, we recognized that we probably would need a vehicle, but we weren't sure whether it was coming out of an unused one at the police department, or whether it would be Graham's, or could we go to next year? And I honestly don't remember us collectively just making a decision on this, to be
I
honest.
thought we did because we said, vehicles coming out of the outside utility account.
A decision wasn't made. We did talk about the money coming from the outside utility account. I agree with you, but I also think we are looking at massive budget increases next year, just based on the price of everything doubling, salaries are going up. So I think if we can afford it this year, I think it should be done this year.
It's a good point.
So I guess I would like clarification on, is it vehicles that you would rather go through the vote? You mentioned that the highway department if I put a PO into you without talking to Ellie first, or, you know, you first about, hey, I have a fire truck that needs to be fixed at $10,000, and they say, oh, hey, it's strong, go to the board, go ahead with it. I think the PO process was when it would be yay and nay. Like tonight, if you didn't sign the PO, Ellie or somebody would call me tomorrow and say, hey, you can't order that car. So, I guess, I didn't know.
Well, I don't think it falls on you. I'm just saying we need, as a board, to discuss this a little quicker for a significant purchase like this. I would like the heads up first before I see a PO in front of me.
I don't think we have to go back to the voters
I don't
to
think so.
replace a vehicle. I think we got the initial approval.
We did have the discussion here, I remember having it.
Yes, sir. We did.
At the board meeting.
But we have a lot of discussions about stuff that we don't make a decision on.
Well, we did. I made a decision, we're gonna take it out of the outside detail account.
Then I'm in error because I did not I don't remember that. I just don't remember that.
Yeah, we did, because we talked about taking his vehicle, because they were gonna need a vehicle for the code enforcement officer. Am I correct? That's what I remember having this.
This is why I want to make motions on everything, so it's a matter of record. I don't think we made an official decision, I think it was, he was pricing it out. I think that was when we talked about him pricing it out.
His suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember having that discussion.
Yeah, absolutely, we did discuss it,
But we took an official vote on it.
and I think we owe it to our department heads to come up with a clearer process as far as
And that's what I was
acquisitions like this that are gonna be
Well,
ongoing.
The other way of looking at it is the three departments that buy vehicles typically have a replacement budget all the time.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
we always
We
see
budget.
courtesy where we put on the ballot and spend the money. You know,
It's budget.
Yeah.
I budget a car every year.
And I think this should be, I think, for a number of different reasons, this makes sense to purchase right now. And I'm supporting it. I'm just trying to come up with a process. Anytime you have police cruisers, it's in the budget process. And I think this command vehicle needs to fall into the budget process. It's now one of the fire department trucks, and it should fall into that.
why don't we sign this PO and put that in procedures to change in the future?
Well, that's what I'm saying, exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm fine with that. Because I agree with Phil, we need to spend it this year, because
I
next
would
year it's gonna
agree,
be
whatever
developed.
we can do to encumber
The
next
cost of
year's
vehicles
cost
is
this
not
year.
going
No,
And
they're not.
I appreciate what he's done. He got the prices, and it looks like a fairly reasonable price. I'm assuming the state bid. The numbers that I just felt the process is where I'm just trying to.
But let me squawk on the cars free.
Question I have about the process, if you get this PO and it's done, how long does it take to get a vehicle?
They're actually holding that one for me now.
Oh,
So the taxpayers know.
so you'll have it in a week or 2 weeks or something?
The public safety detail account is money that we make on doing details, those fees we talked about. So the cost to the taxpayer for this vehicle is zero.
Because it's coming out of the detail.
Free, it's free.
Free.
My favorite word is free.
Well, I think the health officer.
Because if it came from consolidated detail, I pay for it, my fault.
I think the health officer and the section both need to do it.
It's not free.
Whoa, man, where's my kites when you need them?
I don't know about
It's
that.
like a matching grant, it's just free money, came from nowhere.
Free, it's free.
It's like the holiday.
Yeah, holiday, it's free money.
It's a holiday.
We're starting to look more like Argentina.
All right, the police detail rate is increasing, that's been signed by everybody.
So did you sign those POs and send them down, Kevin?
We don't need to vote on that, you can sign or not sign, that'll be your vote.
All right.
Plodzik and Sanderson.
Cindy went through that, it needs two signatures, one from her and one from you.
That's the auditors, correct?
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to authorize me to sign this memorandum of understanding, we'll call
I make a motion, we allow the chair to sign that.
Second.
it? Motion and second, all those in favor? paid leave requests that we're going around.
Yep.
Holiday schedules.
That's was Ellen's memo, should be in your
That's
packets
Ellen's
again.
stuff, just telling us her standard Thanksgiving
Right.
Christmas stuff. So.
Yeah, so she's asking us not to go on December 20th.
Dawn, have you seen this one from, regarding a wedding at a private residence? No.
There was a memo in the folder there, right?
They said they would inform the Kingston PD of their plans. I don't think we need any more action on this.
60 people. We should pave the driveway.
I just told her she should send a letter just to make sure you didn't need anything from them.
Do I have any?
We should make it a
Yeah,
holiday.
it should be.
It should have been.
Everybody can go.
Towards the back.
Class 5, or class 6 or
Just say that they're serving for food.
Yeah. You can ask her when she calls.
Where's the letter? Was it in yours about the rooster?
It's only in the correspondence, there's only one copy of that. Guy just came in.
Is it on-
In that green.
Is it on Ridgewood?
Oh, I bet it is, because there's one down the corner of Ridgewood and Rock River that's a pain in the
It's
ass.
in that green folder right in front of you.
Oh,
This
sorry.
one?
I'm gonna get a jar for you.
You can.
What was that sweet jar?
Make it pretty.
I have been there 2 or 3 times on this and the people don't answer the door, so we probably need to send a letter. But I can't tell the age of the rooster because I don't know if it's their pre-ordinance or not.
You got a
I'm
lunch
here to-
on?
We got a picture of them holding.
I did my due diligence. I have a picture of the rooster I investigated, and it's in the property file. You're a witness to that.
Now, Chief Briggs called me about 2 weeks ago about a complaint at 5 or 7 Ridgewood about a rooster and heavy equipment. And when I went down there, I couldn't see a rooster or heavy equipment. So what do? Roll down your windows. Heard it. It was across the street, not
Rooster or the heavy equipment?
Rooster. Heavy equipment, there's a big trailer there, but I've never caught any equipment there. But we'll send them a letter, either have the animal control guy send it or I'll send it. or
I think that
somebody.
would be a perfect job for the animal control officer.
Okay.
I've got no more complaints on the rooster that I was dealing with.
Well, he's known to authorities now.
Well, they're, like I said, I've knocked a couple times and seen them peeking out the windows at me, but not.
Actually, they do have rooster collars. The lady went out and bought a rooster.
So great.
Yeah, they put it. They do. Seriously. She told me she bought a rooster collar.
I'm telling you, it's rooster or beef.
Susan, this one with the, yoga on the planes,
That's not ready to go yet, Rich didn't want to sign it until he's had dates.
you have competing posters.
What do you want me to say?
Yeah, sorry.
There's only 3 people that got that.
Alright, I will send through. Yeah, there also was a notice of violation here for Mr. Wiley. So,
We got all that ready in case it was,
I think it's worth signing it anyway.
gotta give Susan a little credit, she was told at 1 or 2 o'clock, meet through Sumner to do that, she had it all ready Friday night. And it took quite a bit of research and fact finding.
Good job, Susan.
And a lot of help from Ellen too, she had all the planning board facts.
Alright, I'll send this around. I do not.
This has been an interesting night, ladies and gentlemen.
Action packed.
Okay, we have a letter from the DES regarding the Cheney Mill Dam. As the board is aware, there were numerous deficiencies that the DES Dam Bureau found, and, Mr. Griffin was taking steps to,
Wasn't someone looking to buy all
Someone was,
What happened with that?
COVID, I think. Was it last year?
I mean, that's something that would be.
It was last year, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, I guess.
That would be something perfect for preservation easement or,
It's a big chunk of land.
Yeah, it's a big chunk.
So this is just basically laying out the steps they want him to take because the dam has not been brought into compliance. So I think that's mostly just for our information, and this will go in their property file. All right, and then, planning board comment sheets.
Here. It's on Granite Fields and Campers Inn.
So the commercial condos in Granite Fields,
Campers Inn is buying the property to the right that's had a little garage on it and the equipment, and just to expand parking of RVs. Seems to be everybody's very happy about it to get that lot maintained.
it's been for sale for a while.
So at the Granite Fields, the Conservation Commission asked to have out of the one to provide a soil scientist because of that river that goes down the side there, where they're gonna be building that is adjacent to that river on Summers property. Then I think once if the planning board allows us to use part of that bond, we're gonna do a site walk with the soil scientist.
Where is this? The
So,
campers in place?
my understanding is, so if we go in soccer buildings here,
Oh, Granite Fields.
and it's the end of that parking lot,
Yes.
the far left,
Yep.
and down over the hill is where that river comes in, it goes out through, the little river.
Yep.
So,
The other.
the little river,
Yep.
down across Summers property.
The real,
So, Conservation Commission asked that we use some of that bond to hire, the town to hire their soil scientists to look at where that building sits next to that river.
Yeah. I think that would be a good thing.
So I know that the last meeting we had last week, or this week, last week, we've asked for that plan to use some of that bond money to hire, for the town to hire a soil scientist.
Okay. If it pleases the board, I would think that after we're done with these in a meeting, these would go to the code enforcement officer in the future.
They get them anyway.
The code enforcement officer
Yeah, we get
does
them.
that?
Well, we don't get them from you, but he gets a copy of this to review.
Okay. I just wanna make sure that he's
Yeah.
in the loop.
What we're kind of gonna do, we think, as the future is Robert, Mike and I are gonna sit down and review all of these that come through. And we seem to break them apart better as a group.
Yeah.
We also what if and what if.
Yeah, I think in these meetings, I've commented on, I think, one of these once, so, just as long as we get the eyes on
And I
it.
think we need to keep getting them so we see the hot spots and know to comment, but some of these.
Rich, what are those pictures right there?
That's Creamer Road, boat ramp and the Sergeant Road.
Oh, that's it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, entertaining a motion, or, we have minutes outstanding from June 21st and June 28th, both public and non-public.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of June 21st and June 28th, public and non-public.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay.
Abstain.
Which one? All?
Oh,
Okay.
just a vacation.
Well, I have to hold that back. There is one correction on there. Which one were you?
Oh, there's one you had me, I wasn't even at the meeting, you had me making a motion to go in
Oh,
non-public.
did I?
I believe that was the 21st.
One of those cut
Yeah.
and paste deals.
So, yeah, you mentioned it to Phil, but yeah.
Okay,
With
okay.
that correction.
So you want a motion for non-public?
Yes, sir.
Motion for non-public under RSA 91A3, legal and personnel.
Okay. That would conclude the televised portion of this evening's
Thank you.
meeting. Thank you for joining us, and make sure to buy your Town of Kingston history book.
And cow patties.
And cow patties.
Cow patties, 1 for 10, 2 for 20.
I'm giving them 2 for 25.
Thank you very much.
Graham, before you leave, what I'm gonna bring in